So welcome to the October Maythorn. It's the other fella from last month standing in front of an oldie, the Australian oldie. My turn, it's November, not October. Get rid of him and get on to me. I am November. I am shopping at Aldi. And which one is it? I'm not going to make you guess. This is Marina D'Or in Spain, and this is the Aldi that I showed you being built in the summer. As far as I know, it was open in August. We never come here in August. It's not what I expected. The parking's on the ground floor and the shop is upstairs. So let's go up and have a quick look. So the new Aldi is just 100 to 200 metres away from the original supermarket Mercadona. They're in competition with each other, and that has got to be a healthy thing. They're on the second line from the sea, as is our apartment block, which is over there behind me. If you can see that kind of big Rubik's Cube, that's a substation that powers this area, and it's right behind our building, so that's giving you an idea of where everything is. This strip of land I'm standing on is between the second line apartments and the supermarket stuff and the railway line, so the trains pass here. If one happens to come along while I'm talking to you, it may drown me out. Just behind me here is the football pitch that we can see from our balcony on the 5th floor, so we get an aerial view of it. It's recently had some sort of prefab buildings put on it, some kind of huts or office buildings, not quite sure what they are. Have a look for yourself, but it's not really that obvious, I don't think, and we don't speak the lingo. Now I don't know if you can see the shrub, the bush, the stuff they've cut down. I'm getting plagued by flies here, as usual. It seems that everywhere I go I get flies. Standing away from this long grass, which may be where they're coming from. Lots of it's been cut down here. When we were here May, June, I showed you all the wildflowers they were letting grow in this area, and they were really nice, but of course now when you look around, most of that's died off. The council have been cutting it all down, and they're working from the Oropesa end up towards Cabanas, and they're gradually taking away all the brush and they're letting grass grow. The grass you get in Spain is a bit different because it's a lot warmer here, so you need a different type of grass to what we have in the UK. But nevertheless, it looks as though they're going to landscape all this bit of land again, which was originally cut back, it must be over 10 years ago now, when they dug down beneath here to put in a huge water pipe that brings water from the desalination plant that was built along there, and it brings the water all under this piece of land, several miles of it, going into the town of Oropesa. So there we are. It's taken them a while, but looks like they are going to tidy up this whole area at last. Anyway, enough from Spain. As you know, I'm not the only Brian that's about. Let's move on to another Brian and see if we can tell where he's got to. Well, as you may gather from the surroundings, I am back in Oresh, Bulgaria, and Colin is around here somewhere. He's gone up behind the house, don't know what he's doing. I came out not to get attacked by flies, but to see what's happening about this tree that hangs over the house at the side here. He was going to try and chop some branches off it so they don't scrape the windows of his house. Anyway, that isn't really what I've come to talk to you about today. Of course, I'm in Bulgaria and Spain and Australia all at the same time, apparently, through the wonder of video. And I'd like to hand back now to the Brian that's in Australia, who's visited a place that he saw on the wall of his chalet when he was staying there, called Busselton Jetty. More about that from T'other Brian. Okay, we're at Busselton Jetty, and according to this sign, we're 1,841 metres out to sea. and so it's just a little bit windy. Phil has been flying his drone here, so hopefully we'll have some footage from that. And there's it's $4 to get onto this jetty, to walk the longest jetty in the southern hemisphere, and a further $12 to use a train. But we didn't. We walked the whole way, honest. I have witnesses. So let's have a look around with the drone.
You don't wanna fly my black eagle. Your shadow follows me to the end. The wind will stop when you get tired. You're so lonely and so proud. Mountains are dark and they crumble. Morning sky hangs there, you wonder. You won't be there, you fly no longer. I just need to see you again. Shining in the sky when you just don't care. Riding the wild wind still blowing. Snowstorms wait until the winter. You don't have a home, you just wander.
So welcome to O'Brien's Bits by the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean, you can just see rushing away down through a hole in the rocks there. This is one of my favourite spots at Oropesa del Mar, just below the lighthouse. Our first stop this month is one of my property pensioner things. I bought a flat in Portsmouth in 2006 and it was fitted with a rather expensive Gledhill Pulsar coil electric hot water system, and it can only be fitted with one of those types of boilers. As much as I've tried to persuade people to fit a simple immersion heater type solution, not possible apparently, wouldn't meet building regulations. And so this year I've had to have a brand new Pulsar coil system and another couple of grand gone through the bank. So here's some pictures of some of the things that were occurring. There was a leak in the tank internally, which you can't see, and some of the control modules were starting to go and corrode and so on. All not replaceable, not repairable. So a new one was bought, put in by a local plumber electrician. It looks like this, and it does a wonderful job and has a 10-year warranty. So that's that over for another 10 years, thank goodness. Some more water for you now. This is the view we've had from our chalet in Australia across the marina, and in the chalet were a few things that we discovered during our stay, including a Monopoly board. Now, Monopoly is known to most of us where you can buy streets and railway stations in London. If you look at the board, you'll see that you can buy stations at Perth, Adelaide and Sydney. And the places that feature on the board are like Alice Springs, Darwin and Sydney Harbour. Not quite the same as on our version of Monopoly. A little about the flight on the way over. As you probably know, it can take 24 hours to get to Australia. Most of the routes are not direct. You have to stop at some airport on the way over. In our case it was Doha, because we flew with Qatar Airlines. And Doha Airport, it was a bit like the Trafford Centre. Yeah, it's a big shopping mall. It has some interesting features, including, for people who like a little train, a way of getting from one terminal to another and one gate to another, a sort of overhead railway system that you could jump on and go careering right across above all the other gates. And as you know, I like to feature cars on the Maythorn Monthly. Well, there were some at Doha Airport. A couple of them were actually belonging to businesses that were in there. Harrods didn't have one. I'm sure they should have had a Harrods van or something. And also there were actually pretty posh cars like a McLaren that you could win in a raffle. So if you've got a few hours wait in Doha Airport, no need to be idle. Go and try and win a McLaren. Here's a view from Bulgaria that you might recognise, looking down from Colin's house. I am going to try and move away from here and go up to the lighthouse now, but these rocks are a bit shaky, so you need to be looking at something. Have a look at this car we hired in Bulgaria. It's a Hyundai i20. Hyundai do a great range of cars, including some electric and some hybrids and so on, so we'll have to have a look at them in more detail sometime. Well, I'm standing by the lighthouse now, but it's behind you. The reason you're not seeing it is because the sun is there, and from here it just looks like a black silhouette, so there wasn't much point in filming by the lighthouse anyway. But there's a lot of footage that I've taken where things have gone wrong. One of these you can see here. I'm in Bulgaria in Colin's garden, and you may not know this, but I'm a bit scared of horses, so I was trying to get close to this horse and prove that I could hack it, and in the process of standing near the horse I forgot about everything else, including the microphone, which I normally wear on my shirt pocket or hold it in my hand. I was holding it down here, you couldn't hear a word I said, but what I was trying to introduce was an aerial view of a plot of land and a house in Oresh, the village where we visit in Bulgaria, to show you the property that I was hoping to buy. I forgot that I have to hold the microphone somewhere near my mouth. And here I am by the sea with no horse to tell you that we're going to show you the aerial footage of the new property.
If I didn't have your love to make it real with you.
So this is the aerial view of the plot of land in Orish, and it's pretty much overgrown, so one of the first things we need to do is a lot of cutting back. I've got some plans as to how to develop this plot, but this is just a basic overview. So you can see it's a kind of a wedge shape. I would say a cheesecake shaped wedge. My wife would probably say just cheese-shaped, but it's a triangular piece of land anyway, and I haven't a clue what I'm going to do with it, but let's look at the house first. Seems in reasonable condition. Load of trees behind, and apparently there was a summer kitchen there which has collapsed. You can't see what was there at all now, but that will need some excavation, and I think I'll be rebuilding probably a bathroom on the back there. So that's the first basic look. There's a basement where I can store stuff. All houses in Orish seem to have a basement for storing things, so this is no exception. I promised you that this month we'd return to Dwellingup to have a go on the steam train. We spotted the little forest train last month. Apparently it goes to a place called Etmilin, about 8 kilometres away from Dwellingup. But I wanted to get on the full-size train, the Steam Ranger, and it goes up to a place called Isandra, 14 kilometres away. And that's where we're heading off now on this train. I'll tell you a little bit about the railway itself. It started out as a timber sort of a freight train system in about 1910. Then there was this huge disastrous fire in January 1961, and that was the end of that. And then in 1974, the residents of Pinjarra formed the Pinjarra Steam and Hills Railway Preservation Society. Well, what a mouthful that was. Anyway, now it's been renamed to the Hotham Valley Tourist Railway. It's a little easier to say. And this loco is a Type W class, apparently. They're particularly good at steep climbs and going around small radius curves. On the way out of Dwellingup, it's downhill, so it's fairly easy going, but on the way back, it's the sort of thing you'd need 2 locomotives for. So we turn round at Isandra, have a few minutes here. Notice that there's a little truck, a sort of flatbed truck, I think you call it. The Australians have different names for things like this than us. It may be a pickup. And on the back there's some steps. Well, they're the steps to get on and off the train, because Isandra, well, actually both stations have got no platforms and you need stairs to get up to them. And the little trucks that follow the train up the route, they make sure that the road crossings are clear, and you'll have seen them as we went past the road junctions. So when we get to Isandra, you'll notice that the truck seems to be coming down the line towards us. Well, it actually follows the train all the way back to Dwellingup, because it's got road wheels and rail wheels, so it can actually get on the track behind the train on the way back and follow it. And then we arrive back at Dwellingup, and another thing you might notice here is that people just park anywhere. In Britain we have all these very military car parks with everybody parked in a little strict space and paying some huge fee. It's not like that over here in Western Australia. You can just pull up in the trees and park where you like, and it's all very easy going. I love it. Well, we've been very lucky for weather this autumn, because we've been down in Australia where it's spring. I nearly dropped off in Bulgaria from the plane coming back from Australia because we flew over Varna. Unfortunately, I had to go back to the UK and catch another plane back to Varna. It wasn't quite that neat, and they didn't have a parachute for me. But I've been gadding about rather a lot, so you're going to get the benefit of that. And I'm going to hand you over once again from here in Spain to that person in Bulgaria. Thank you, oh person in Spain. I'm back here in Oris, Bulgaria. I'm not actually doing much here at the moment because everything's been business meetings, going to the public notary's office, visiting banks, signing forms, all that sort of stuff to get a house on the go here. The paperwork's a little more complicated than it used to be, I think, but I'm being pestered by flies, so I'm not going to hang around and talk about that for now. A quick look around the village to see some of the wildlife here. Yes, I've just been for a walk and came across a cow and a couple of bulls in a field. It took me quite by surprise. Just looked round past the edge of a tree and there was this cow staring at me. And there's been goats, the usual selection of goats here. We've seen cats. Even at the cafe in the village, a cat, unusually tame because they're mostly wild around here, came and sat with us. It sat on my knee and it sat on Colin's knee. And also there's a new venue in the village which they're just calling the Caravan, and you can go and eat and drink there at night. It is just a caravan, like a food truck, but it's on its own piece of yard with tables outside and a TV playing music and that sort of thing. And we had a tame cat there as well, although it was dark when we went, and I doubt if you'll be able to see that. Talking wildlife, we're going to return to Australia now because we've got some great footage to show you. And at Caversham Wildlife Park, lots happened, lots of things, including the battery on my camera going flat because it was such a long day. I've never filmed so much in all my life, and I ran out of battery to complete the day's viewings. So here's as much as we got. So here we are at Caversham, and we looked at the timetable and found one of the first things that was going on was that the penguins were being fed. So we tootled around there and watched through a glass screen and caught the end of the penguin feeding. Quite a lot more feeding was going on. The next visit was to the pelicans, seem a hungry lot to me, and so we pressed on around the park looking at all the different creatures there are here. Now you may notice some sheep being herded towards us. There's also this huge shed full of kids. There's a school outing here, obviously. They come to see sheep shearing, and we didn't stay for that, not just because there was no room, but because I've seen an Australian doing sheep shearing in North Wales, of all places. So that was the first part of our visit to the Caversham Wildlife Park. It's very windy here in Spain at the moment. Hope the camera's managing to stay still because we're the silly ones sitting outside in this, and most people are inside this cafe. It's a new cafe. There's been a person here before who used to operate it as a bakery, but now it does have homemade cakes and things like that, so you can have pastries and cakes and biscuits and things as well as hot food. We come here for coffee and cake. I must admit I'm the main consumer of cake. And this is right by our apartment entrance. So this building, which I think you can see in the picture, there are commercial units on the ground floor, and there are flats up to the 6th floor, I think it is, and then on the 7th floor there's a couple of rows of storerooms which they call trasteros, and we have one of those as well to keep all our stuff. So we only have to come down in the lift from our 5th floor apartment, out the gate, and walk straight onto this cafe here and have our coffee. So the most convenient thing we've ever had here, considering everywhere else seems shut at the moment. Anyway, we're going back to Caversham Wildlife Park for part 2. This is the bit where I actually ran out of battery in the camera, but we have got some photographs that Colette took as well to stick in, so you will see most of what we saw that day. I'm actually too big for this. We're at Caversham Wildlife Park, and it's autumn, and yet it's in the early 30s. It's really warm here today, and there are some fantastic animals that you can get really close to. So come with us on our tour around Caversham. Finally, we're taking a return trip to North Dandalup Dam, which we flew the drone over last month. And here you see the intake tower and a map of the area and how it's all laid out. Now, I promised to go down below. You can see that it's got this huge dam wall. It do sound like I'm swearing, I know. And down below there's a leisure area, which we said we'd show you this month. Here's a place where the kids can play, you can take a picnic, and there's also a smaller pipehead dam down here. It's worth coming down here just to see what a huge wall and that huge amount of water that we showed you from the drone is being held back behind all this wall. That is all for this month anyway, so we'll have some more from Australia next month, and as you may have gathered, from Spain and from Bulgaria.